So we were talking about education and having assistants in class and things. So I had personal assistants for various things, in particular during science classes.
Right.
So just sort of keeping safe with sort of Bunsen burners and things like that, or any chemical sort of stuff. And also just helping out with doing things like reading the thermometers. And any sort of stress gauges and things like that, for example. They would also copy all the notes off the board for me in some lessons, such as science, particularly where there was lots of diagrams and things. So it meant I could basically just keep looking at the blackboard and could then just concentrate on looking at the blackboard, and I would still have notes that they looked up afterwards for me. So that was really useful. And then sort of similarly in technology classes, for example, craft design technology, they would sort of just make sure I was sawing things up safely and basically. So I mentioned there using my monocular. I had a monocular, a little mini telescope from an early age. Before that, I actually had some little binoculars as well. Basically, I had to copy all my schoolwork off the blackboard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you ever?
We didn't have blackboards in our school. I mean, the mainstream school I started at had blackboards. That was part of the problem. But the special school I went to very quickly didn't use boards because they knew we couldn't see them anyway. So they made sure we had the materials in front of us to start with. It was designed with visually impaired people in mind. That's what they were teaching. So
was that still on paper back then? Or?
You would have been still on paper back then, yeah. I mean, we did have computers then, IT lessons, but I mean, they didn't even have accessibility features built in those computers back then. And we were talking about Pioneer machines and Windows 3.1, this kind of stuff. So, it didn't have accessibility features like Macs and Windows machines do now. So it certainly just a fairly big screens, and we learned to touch type like you did, things like that. So it was all designed with that in mind.
And how about sort of stuff in the playground, for example, sort of finding friends and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, finding friends wasn't too difficult. Special school, like I said, we were all in the same boat then. So those people I hooked up with. Like I said, there were some people who teased me because I was quite shy at that point. So I wasn't being teased from my side by then. But there were some people who I did befriend because they were also a bit quiet like me anyway, or we liked similar things. Perhaps we were good at the same lessons, or we liked the same music or stuff like that. So it wasn't too difficult to hook up with people really. And itself was designed all right. The railings and things were designed in nice bright colours so we could see them. They stood out, things like that. So playing with people wasn't too. Once I got over my initial shyness and was able to find it easier to talk to people. I kind of developed my sense of humour and just got to know other people really, and just made more and more friends over the years. And I've still kept in touch with some of them. I was best man for one of them a couple of years ago. So they've certainly endured some of those friendships. What about you? Are you still in touch? Have you still got friends from
No, not from those days really. One in particular. Nothing more just transition of time and place and things. So change schools sort of 2 or 3 times. I was in the same place all the time. Like different schools, like 15, 16 years. Okay. And I mean, so how did you sort of deal with studying? So, for example, when I was doing revision exams, I would do things like I'd make myself lots of notes. I would also record myself reading them out. I'd listen to them kind of on the way to school and things, because I couldn't just sort of flick through a textbook sort of thing on the bus or anything. No. So I sort of basically listen to myself. I don't think I ever did that. I think I just read things, try not to read too much, kind of break it down into manageable chunks, like using my CCTV at home to enlarge things like that. When I got a computer at home, I started making notes and things. It's quite useful to do that then. Try and summarise things. Perhaps going back over assignments and things like that. I've done homework, things like that, if I've kept anything like that. It's just a case of doing a little bit at a time, I think. If you try and read too much, you can't take it all in. Even listening to stuff, if you listen to too much at once, you can't take it all in. So, it took. I had to do a bit more reading than other people, maybe like what ordinary people would do. Same for university, really. I had to, there's a lot to get through at university, especially when you're doing. I mean, I did accountancy, so there's some law in there and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of reading to do, but I managed it. So.
I had to take a bit longer over it. I had to devote more of my time to it. I feel it was worth it in the end.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, let's talk a bit about what we do for work. So yeah, I think largely because I was sort of touched on actually use computers at an early age, where I was sort of given the computers for sort of assistive purposes. That really led me into kind of an IT sort of interest and studying at university and ultimately a career. So I went to University of Surrey, did maths and computing there, which was excellent. So it's kind of taught me computer programming and kind of other aspects. And so I started out as a web developer at the headquarters at the Vice Bureau in the UK. Was there for a few years and then moved to Big Lottery Fund and was in their digital media team for 10 years. And so again, so it started as a developer, progressed through into more general communication and marketing, and got involved in things like social media and making podcasts, kind of project management of large website projects, all sorts of stuff, campaign websites and things like that. And then I decided I wanted to specialise and get involved in what we call user experience, which is basically making websites easier for people to use. And so I moved over and actually started the web. So now I'm a civil servant. I work in government, and specifically now I actually work on accessibility, closing the loop, as it were. So I'm now actually responsible for trying to make the website services, for example, renewing your passport, making those systems for people who have disabilities, including visual impairments and others. And so, I sort of influence people to try and make things easier for people with disabilities.
Maths was kind of my big thing at school, really. I was kind of pretty good at maths and computers as well. I enjoyed growing up with IT systems. We were lucky growing up in Europe, I suppose, using developing that. Learning to touch the scientific skill. Maths was my other big skill as well. I did very well at that. I enjoyed numbers and statistics and that kind of stuff. So I did maths A-level as well, and statistics A-level in college, and economics and IT. And then I moved on to do accounting and finance at the University of Exeter. I thought accounting would be a nice field to get into. As it happened, I didn't go into that afterwards, just purely by chance, really. I came out of university, I went to an employment agency looking for work, and a lady there says, "Oh, I know someone who works in your local council, Torbay Council down in Devon, where I lived." So she said, they're putting in a new financial system at the council, so you like finance, you're good with computers, so do you want to go in and help with that for a bit of work experience? I can get you in, which she did. So I went in and I was working on spreadsheets and all this kind of stuff, putting data into this new system, importing it from their old system, this kind of thing. And then they realised they had to print things off this new system they were putting in. And the printing department were developing, the output, pulling in the data from this new system and generating, mail merge billing and all this kind of thing. And they said, "Oh, we need an extra pair of hands." And the financial team said, "Well, we got this guy who's quite good with computers. He's picking things up quite well. So, we could use him." So I went down to the printing department, started learning how to use their systems. Like they've got proper form development systems, like a posh mail merge system, if you like. So I learned how to use that. I picked that up quite quickly, and it became a temporary contract, which got extended, and then they basically created a formal position that I then had to go and interview for. And I've been there for like 13 years ever since now. I've not left. I basically look after the automated system that does that prints all the daily bills, all the council tax bills, social services bills. It does purchase orders electronically. We do electoral stuff. When the elections come around, we do all the ballot papers and postal votes, that kind of thing. I do bespoke mail shots as well, and surveys and raffle tickets, anything that's personalised, anything that's got a unique number on or anything like that. I do all that kind of stuff, and I help to produce general documents as well, business cards, posters, everything in between. So it's a nice varied job. So it's kept me in good work. And when I moved to London a year and a half ago, they said, "We'd like to keep you on as a home worker." So I said, "Fine, I'm perfectly happy to have that job security." So they've stuck a broadband connection in my bedroom, and that's where I work now. So yeah, working in London then is going to be another thing we talk about, I suppose, and kind of how that changes things.
Well, okay, so let's move on to that. So yeah, in terms of getting around and things, so I think that's one of the reasons I like living in London so much, is that the public transport is here. Especially when we're sort of thinking about moving house, the idea of going somewhere that wasn't anywhere near a tube station was just a complete no-no as far as I was concerned. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of typical Londoner, but I can't imagine not living somewhere that has such good public transport. I would just imagine that was incredibly isolating. Just sort of when you want to go out with friends and
in Devon it was. I mean, we're stuck at the end of the line basically, and the trains run like once an hour to get into Exeter, and the buses and trains only run to a certain time, so you've got to really plan your journey in advance as to when you're going to go, when you're going to come back. And it's not cheap, because I mean, up in London we have a freedom pass, don't we? So we get around, for free on the transport, but they have to pay, which I don't mind doing. But you just have to plan everything and budget for everything. Whereas in London, you can just go out on a whim whenever you like to meet whoever you like, wherever you like. It's just so much more freedom, so much more independence. I think we're very fortunate.
So, I mean, we didn't sort of clarify at the start that neither of us can drive because of a visual impairment. I have had a go at driving. My parents, when we were down, visited me at university one summer when no one else was there, and they basically let me have a drive around the car park in their automatic car. Dad just said basically, if anything goes wrong, just take all your hands off all the pedals and everything, and I'll just put on handbrake. So I had a little tootle around the car park. Other than that, though, I have sort of driven a few other things. I did get to go for, I think it was a birthday or something. They sent me tank driving.
Oh, wow.
So I could do a lot more damage in that, but then the same hand being a lot safer in a way. You can't be damaged. It was kind of, and this is similar because I really like go-karting as well. So I've done go-karting several times. And that's always good fun. But basically you just have to kind of literally turn a blind eye to the bit that sort of says, even if it does say, a lot of these sort of safety things don't actually say, don't do this if you've got a visual impairment. And it just sort of says, oh, just sign that you're fit and healthy. I'm fit and healthy. Kind of thing. But I mean, the last time I did go-karting was quite funny. So I came out of the pits and I was the first one out. And so I was kind of looking up this main straight, and I was kind of tootling up it. And I just suddenly had a slight moment of panic, because I was like, I can't actually tell at the end of this straight whether the curve goes left or right. And I was like, oh, has my sight deteriorated since last time I did this? I was like, oh, it was fine. I kind of got a bit close to it, and it was fine. But I just had this sort of sudden moment, because I hadn't done it for like 15 years. I was like, oh, is this but different than what I remember? But somehow I actually got the fastest lap.
Oh, wow.
This is my 30th birthday, I think this was. And so, of all the other people who were there, who were all drivers and things, I actually got the fastest lap. So whether that was just a sort of, you can't see the danger, so it's like no fear.
It could be,
It's all about late braking, isn't it? So for me, it's like, oh, there's a wall, brake.
Just swerve in the wall, let the wall take you around the corner, basically.
This is it. Because I can't drive, therefore public transport is really important. I do sort of often struggle with things like, so I have to get my binocular out, for example, to look at the sort of destination boards and things like that. And also just kind of getting around in stations. So, for example, just yesterday, I had to change trains at Clapham Junction.
Oh, wow.
And I just wandered around for, several minutes, just basically looking for signage. Because, I mean, specifically, I wanted to find the platform that a Waterloo train was going from. And there's like 19 platforms there.
There's lots of platforms there.
So it's not just a case of looking for a particular destination. You're looking for the platforms that they go from. And I mean, partly I think it's just signage, but it's just the sort of, you can't kind of just look around and scan for a bit of information.
No.
So yeah, that can often be difficult.
Yeah.
When so there's a particular point, for example, in London Bridge Station as well.
Yeah, it's very open line. London Bridge is very kind of difficult to navigate that one, I find.
Changing between the Jubilee and the Northern Line, and there's one particular point where you stand there, and you're like, I know there must be a way to the Northern Line here, but there's no signage, and there is. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. It's about, like, from my point of view,
stick it up in the air or something
two centimetres high, really sort of tiny letters right at the other end of the concourse.
Oh, right, yeah.
So let's sort of move on from that to talk about sort of social stuff. So we had our meet-up yesterday for Aniridia Day and Nystagmus Day. And one of the sort of common sort of things that happens there is, so I made sure I got there early, which is normally so that the sort of sighted people I'm meeting, that I'm there, and that means they can come and find me rather than me have to hunt around for them. But we had a bit of a problem yesterday because this was all people with Aniridia who were meeting, and so we basically all did the same thing. So two of us were both sitting in this bar, both sort of reserving a table, and didn't know that each other were there. And we had to eventually figure this out by sort of electronic means. But yeah, how do you find kind of socialising and meeting people and making friends? That kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, moving to London was obviously a big deal for me in that respect because A, I don't know anybody in London, and B, I was becoming a home worker, so I wasn't going to meet anyone during the day either. And thankfully, by this point, I'm more confident than I was as a kid. So in that sense, I was very prepared to meet people, just finding the right way to do it. So knowing there was a big risk of becoming isolated, I made sure I joined various social groups in the city, not just for visually impaired people, but just for ordinary people as well. I contacted a group called Thinking Bob and said, you look good. Do you mind if I'm visually impaired? Oh, no, they said, come along, we'd love to have you. So I went along to one of their kind of new members nights they have, you can meet the staff and things. And I just settled in from there really and got involved with them. Went to various quiz nights and tried a couple of escape rooms and various other bits and pieces, museum visits and drinks evenings and food evenings and stuff. And then I found out about groups like East London Vision, who are for visually impaired people, local to me. So I joined them. And I've also joined South East London Vision since as well, because I met one of their members of staff at a museum. So I've made friends through that. I've also made friends through like tours at museums, because museums in London often do touch tours and audio described tours and things. So you meet people in those groups you get talking to.
Vocalise, what you mean by that?
Vocalise, so basically museums organise special tours of their exhibitions where you get a handling session of many of the objects, either objects that we use to make the paintings perhaps, or scale models of the objects you're going to see, or you may even get to touch and handle the objects themselves while the curator of the exhibition tells you about them, so you get all the context and everything. And then you get taken around the exhibition and someone is like describing every exhibit, not every exhibit, but a selection of the exhibits to you and telling you the story behind them, again with the help of a curator as well. So it really helps to bring everything to life, especially for me, like art I didn't really appreciate before, but then I went to an art gallery at the British Museum, and it kind of really opened the world up to me, kind of hearing, seeing how it was made with the tools used to make the artworks, and then handle them, and then hearing the stories about why each painting was created and what it looks like. It just helps really help me engage with it more, all that stuff. And I get similar things at theatres now as well. I go to theatres and go on touch tours there, so I get to go up on the stage before the show and see the set, and talk to members of the crew and members of the cast sometimes as well, and see things close up, handle them. And then during the show, I get audio description through headphones, so I can kind of marry that up with what I've seen on the stage. I can use my monocular to look at things during the show as well, my telescope. So again, it makes sure I'm not missing out on anything, I'm understanding everything. And then the other big thing that I've been doing on the social front is social media as well. So I got involved, I found out there were various disabled bloggers online who write about visual impairments and other disabilities. And I thought, well, I'll give that a go, see if I make any connections that way. And yeah, I have made friends that way. James being one of them. Because James found my blog and got in touch and said we've got a lot in common, including Aniridia. So I got roped in to helping out with his social media. I now work on social media for the Aniridia network. So if you see lots of random posts on Twitter and Facebook today, that is me, basically, a lot of that. So, I've got involved with that, and I've made other friends through it as well that I've been meeting up with. So it's been another useful tool, social media. Social media does have its downsides in some ways, some of the people you get on there, but thankfully I've not had any problems with them. So I just write my blog and make videos on my YouTube channel about the things I enjoy and about my disability and things. It's called Well I Never, for those who are curious. May as well give it a plug while I'm here. Well, EYE, now there's the word I in the middle, so wellinever.com. Everything's on there, basically. So, it's just been another useful way, just using every tool at my disposal, basically, social groups and social media, really, and it's been working out really well. So,
Okay. I mean, for my part, I was sort of going to talk a bit about sort of sports and activities and things like that. So I used to like cycling, for example. I used to sort of cycle all around my local area and go out with friends for sort of whole days on end. Apart from that, I guess most of the things I did were stuff that didn't rely on sight a whole lot, for one reason or another. So, for example, I really liked swimming.
I did a lot of that,
I actually sort of took part in the London Youth Games in their visually impaired kind of category, for example.
I did various swimming galas and things with the local sports club when I was a kid. I got involved in a lot of swimming. It was certainly great to get into,
and then other, I sort of quite like board games. I like sort of chess, for example, and backgammon and things like that. So I tend to sort of like sort of more kind of strategy stuff, and it can cause a difficulty sometimes where there were certain games where you have to sort of a particular game I like called Scotland Yard, where you basically have to know where you are on the board and kind of you decide where you're going to go next, but the other person isn't supposed to know. And so whenever I played that, we have to sort of do this whole thing where the other person has to go out the room sort of thing while I take my go. So that can be a bit challenging sometimes. I mean, and then sort of a few years ago, I took up martial arts as well, which was really good. Again, I did sort of have to sort of find a tutor, a sensei who was kind of aware of visual impairment, and sort of would not just stand at the front of the class and demonstrate something, but would actually kind of describe what he was doing, how he was holding his demo partner, and then also kind of come over to me afterwards and sort of demonstrate it really closely and kind of hands-on with me as well. But that was really enjoyable. So I guess kind of sort of slightly more kind of academic-y sort of things. So I mean, any questions again from anyone who's hopefully still listening out there? If you do have any questions for us, we'd love to hear them.
Just a question to both of you, or either of you really. But I heard you speaking about your experiences in the world of work. Have you come across any problems either from sort of like line managers or colleagues in terms of not making adjustments and that sort of thing in view of your sort of visual impairment?
I can't say so, no. If anything, the opposite. So, like my current boss, for example, was so appalled at how difficult I was finding using the human resources systems that it spurred her on even further into a project that she was keen to do in terms of accessibility, of making things accessible, and it kind of really brought it home to how important this issue was, and she then has made it a central tenet of our team that we make sure we build accessibility in systems, and it's actually made me, she's made me to lead in that space. Previous to that, no, I mean, all the organisations they all work for have been kind of sort of charities or public sector, and so generally tend to be quite well tuned into the whole diversity and inclusion idea anyway, and have kind of quite good policies around these things. That said, I am aware of kind of other people in the same organisations who have had significant problems. But again, I think partly because my level of sight hasn't been terribly bad, And so, in general, with the sort of the built-in accessibility features of technology, I've generally been okay and not really needed particularly more assistance. When I had my practical action, I started using the cane and things. Again, there it was a case of I could have to tell people, for example, if you walk past me or if you come and speak to me, please tell me who you are first. And that was a real new thing for me. I didn't have to do that previously. I was actually having to learn people's voices a lot more than recognise them. But I actually had to say, if you come and talk to me, please say who you are first. But yeah, that was all fun. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the same thing really. My manager was very understanding at the outset. He was very. He obviously didn't know what it's like for me. They'd never had anyone visually impaired work for them before in that department. But the council had good policies on these things, and he was very keen to welcome me in and work out what I needed. And they helped me get access to work support. I don't know if you got that now, but I got basically software for my computer to enlarge the screen. I got a CCTV to read things under, and I got taxi travel to and from work as well. So they made sure the support was in place. A lady came to assess me what I needed and discussed it with me and my manager. So yeah, he's always said, if I ever have any problems, I need an extra help from to say. They've always been very supportive. Yeah, I've never had any problems really. It's been nice and easy. And when I moved to London, they just packed up the CCTV and sent it up to the computer, and I've still got that as well. So yeah, it's just been very easy. Everyone's kind of just gradually learned what it's been like for me, and they've become more relaxed about me over time. They weren't sure if I had a sense of humour about things or things like that. I think to begin with they were worried about kind of making jokes about it. But as soon as I was there making jokes about myself, they kind of realised, he is comfortable with himself. And it's like if they say, we need someone to drive the forklift to bring in pallets, pallets of paper, I jokingly offer to do it. They never let me, but just little things like that. So this just makes them, it's a deliberate act to just make them more relaxed around you, but it helps. So yeah, everyone's been really nice.
Yeah, I know I sort of being excited was educating people about this. And I realised that when occasionally I made sort of those jokes around, not quite this, but sort of, we'll have to wait and see. And I was thinking that, I won't. And I sort of realised I should stop doing that a bit because that makes other people feel uncomfortable. They don't realise necessarily you're saying it in a very joking way.
I don't tend to pull people up on phrases like that.
I don't
either. You don't want to embarrass them.
And that's it.
You don't want to be thinking about what their next word is going to be.
And that's something that I have realised recently, that although I was treating it as a joke, they didn't necessarily know that I was treating it as a joke, even though I was kind of laughing about it. So, I've become more aware that people become conscious of that, and I sort of realised that with me joking about it, it might actually make me more self-conscious about it rather than less. So we don't need to wrap up really. So thank you very much for joining us. If you do have any other questions, please get in touch one way or another, and we'd be delighted to answer them.
Thank you very much for tuning in.
All right. Cheers. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.